First, to start, can you lay out the difference between the amateur and a semi-pro distinction?
Yeah. So the amateur league that we play in, the competition is really high. There's a lot of ex-collegiate, ex-professional players, or even some professional players just in their off season, just trying to play. But I would say the difference between switching from semi-professional to amateur is really just the organization for the teams that we compete against, and then the organization within the league itself. Just the semi-professional just kind of holds you to higher standards. For example, we always had to have a field with a stadium. I think it was had to be minimum 3,000 people stadium. We never had that many players at the game, but that was kind of the standard they held us to. So
Yeah,
just kind of like the requirements, and then just holding the other teams accountable. And then like in our amateur, like I said, the teams that we're playing against are very high competition. It's not much different from the amateur to the semi-professional level. It's just the amateur players are showing up 5 minutes before the game, but still playing just as good as the other guys.
yeah, I gotcha. So there's the playing level could be pretty comparable, but in terms of the structure of the league, the requirements, and I'm assuming the like economics of it too, is there different like is it more expensive? You guys have to hire more people or get more volunteers? Like how does that work?
Yeah.
What's the difference
So
there?
the financial part of it is the main reason that we're scaling back. It was a huge investment to play semi-professionally because, like I said, the requirements and the standards are much higher. And the reality is that we just didn't have the players to compete because, in order to cover the costs to stay in that league, we had to charge a monthly membership, and there were competitive teams out there that were I'm not sure where they got the money, but they were able to offer them to play for free, and so players were just leaving our club to go play for free, which is understandable. But
Hmm.
it was just something that financially we couldn't afford that.
It's competitive on the field, but also competitive in like at a money standpoint. Like you have to really compete
Yeah.
there too. What are the type of requirements that were needed that threw up some red flags for you that, or maybe like had made you guys think twice? And I'm asking this from a perspective of a club maybe thinking about jumping to that next level. What are some of the big things that you would advise people to keep in mind or warn them about?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing financially and the most difficult thing to do, like just from a logistics perspective, is finding facilities. Because the league requires, like I mentioned, a field with a stadium, and then they're also increasing the standards that now you have to provide locker rooms as well, which is very difficult. I'm not sure how it is everywhere else, but over here in Atlanta, soccer is not the biggest yet. It's growing, but still they're not giving priority to soccer clubs. There's not many soccer fields. A little bit more on the east side of Atlanta, but we're on the west side, so there's not many facilities to find locker rooms and be able to fulfill those requirements, and then as well as training.
Yeah.
So we just find spaces at public parks, and again, that's another financial thing, is being able to secure a field, which we were willing to make that investment, but we couldn't even find anything that would allow us to rent a field for these times that we could do. We could
Hmm.
do things in the morning, but all the players work, so we wouldn't have anyone in training. And then I would say the other obstacle that isn't financial, but it's just finding players that are committed. Because even though it's a semi-professional
Hmm.
level, because it's semi-professional, we can't pay the players, so they have to find their economy some other way. So all of our players work, they go to school, they have other priorities, and or they just some of them just lack commitment and they just don't feel a need to go to training. So being able to compete at a high level like that, we need players that will be able to go to every training session and be like that. But last season, we're playing the highest level, only had like a few players